Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Mary D'Ambra, your Women's Council of Realtors Treasurer and also South Shore Realtors 2020 President. We're doing this webinar using South Shore Realtors platform, so we're collaborating with them and we thank them. I want to let everyone know that this is being recorded and we have a panel of experts here to answer all of your burning questions about how to get your business done, especially now during COVID-19. So I am going to introduce this panel of experts who are all our strategic partner sponsors at Women's Council of Realtors South Shore. So first we have Mike Healy from Tiger Home Inspection.
Hi, how you doing today? Just a real quick background on me. I've been with Tiger for, believe it or not, almost 30 years since the start in 1990. I do home inspections. I'm also an inspector supervisor. I am in the office a fair bit. I train home inspectors. I do seminars with real estate brokers, answer questions, whatever needs to be done. Tiger Home Inspection, we basically started south of Boston in the South Shore. Think of Route 3. We've, over the years, we've expanded. We can take care of your needs up to New Hampshire, down to Rhode Island, but most of our work is Boston, South Shore. That's really about it. You're muted, Mary. You're still muted.
Oops, sorry. Next we have John Barber from Barber Home Inspections.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Barber from Barber Home Inspections. I've been in the trades for over 35 years, building homes and renovating all homes. I've been in business about 4 years now. I enjoy it. And I'm also located in the Weymouth area. I go pretty much anywhere. I was down in Eastham last week inspecting a house on the ocean. It was beautiful. That one isn't like where I am now. It was very beautiful. Mary, you're muted again.
Sorry. Next we have Chris Conti from Green Home Solutions. Chris.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Mary, for having me and introducing me. So we normally do mold remediation, water damage. I'm sure I've worked with many of you in the past doing the mold remediation. And now we've kind of shifted during this kind of crisis period. We've been doing disinfection of surfaces and air within businesses and different city properties. We have a couple of fire stations and rescue that we've been working with. It's kind of, it's been a difficult time kind of for everybody. And our main point is just trying to keep everybody safe and healthy and everybody's loved ones, safe and healthy and everybody functioning as much as possible. So now we're back up to full capacity. What we're doing is we have some protocols put into place to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe regardless of what's going on, and that regardless of if someone is exposed or not exposed, we can make sure that everybody's business is functioning. And if you've experienced anything like that, or if you're dealing with anything like that, I'm happy to answer any questions about, the proper way to get a home or a potential home that that is being bought or sold back up to that standard you need to be to have people looking at it and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next we have Bill Balo from Gallo Moving and Storage.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. And for those of you who are just listening and you cannot see John Barber's beautiful background in his reference to Eastham, he's got a beautiful flowing ocean with a palm tree. And I believe he said it was Hawaii. So John, you'll have to fill us in on how to do that in the future, because I do like that rather than my clock and picture. Gallo has been up and running from the beginning. Our drivers were exempt from the beginning. I, unfortunately, as an estimator, was not, and that I tried to explain to people goes with them trying to control the spread. Because typically, I would be going out to see anywhere from 4 to 6 people a day. So you can imagine how that's obviously not conducive with what they're trying to do and control this virus. So as opposed to the drivers, 1 customer a day. So the method that we've been doing is basically just what we're doing now in similarity. So we can still handle most moves, if not all. The newest thing I put on LinkedIn was for those businesses that are reopening that need help with reconfiguring and or storage of furniture. We started to do that as well. So it's pretty much operational here at Gallo. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Next, we have Nathan Becker with MyBox.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. So similar to John over at Gallo, we here at MyBox, we were exempt from the beginning as well. We were considered essential to help people continue to move and deliver storage units. A little bit about MyBox is we provide portable storage containers, similar to pods, but on a local level. So we do residential, commercial moves. We luckily have a small operation, so we did not have, we had our core group of employees. We kept everybody employed, and right now we're just continuing to follow proper protocols to keep everybody safe, keep everybody healthy, and to keep everybody moving.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a lot of questions here that people have been wondering about. And the first one is basically directed, it's going to be the same for all of you, but we'll start, I guess, with the home inspectors. People want to know, what are you doing differently now than before the pandemic? And specifically, questions about, are you allowing multiple people to attend the home inspection? What are your protocols that you're using right now? So Mike, let's go to you first.
So at Tiger, what we've worked towards, we use, CDC recommendations, social distancing, that as a baseline. To go right to your question about the number of people, what we have done is, I'm going to take a step back. Our business is really about communication and expectation. We want to make sure that people know what they're going to get when they get there. And this is true whether it's COVID or not. And it's all about communication. So what we've found is when the inspection gets booked, when they call to set up the inspection, we're trying to limit it to 2 attendees. There's going to be the client and a significant other of their choice. By keeping the 2, we avoid kind of, the bring the family, bring the mom, the dad, the uncle, all that stuff. And we've really concentrated on just trying to get it down to the real nitty gritty, to the people who need to be there and want to be there. And we also discuss, it's a 2-step. When they book the inspection, there's a certain amount of discussion about what's going to go on. And then, as John will probably also reinforce, is that when you get there, it's, again, expectations need to be set. And that's, we need a certain amount of distance. We need, we're going to have that distance. Certain parts of the home are going to be a little bit closer, a little bit tighter. And what are they going to end up with? They want to be happy. They want their questions answered. But it really is, we have limited the participants, and we want to just get it out there beforehand. Good enough?
Okay, John, do you have that?
Yes, my process is pretty much the same. We, send out how we'd like things to be on site there. Most clients are really excited about buying their home, like their first homes a lot of times, and things they kind of forget once in a while. So you have to try to remind them without hurting their feelings or anything, because they're excited usually. And sometimes they want to bring more people, and I do my best to try to limit that. Usually I just like the buyer and their spouse, or partner. Also, the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent, it's nice to have them there to give them a little bit of direction. But I wear a mask and I try to wear gloves when I can. And I require everybody to wear a mask.
Have you had any buyers choose not to attend the home inspection at all and just receive a report from you?
Yeah, that has happened. There's been people, sometimes I wonder if it's a combination of their schedule was tight or difficult to begin with, and this is just the COVID was enough to push them into the area where they'd say that, how about you do the inspection, we can go over it, more particularly at a later date. As home inspectors, that's the last thing we want, is to do an inspection without the buyer there, because what happens is it's so contextual, and when you're there and you can explain it and point it out and really get a good kind of let them wrap their mind around it. So what happens is when you try to replay it, with pictures, we do have pictures and discussions, but it's never quite the same. So due to COVID, not a problem. If you don't want to be there, that would be fine. I think as an educational experience, which really is the base of a home inspection, I think it can't be beat to be there on one level. Even if it's from, instead of 6 feet, it's 10 feet, whatever you're comfortable with, All right, thank you.
John, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, Mike explained it very well. That's pretty much the way it is. So far, everybody's been there. I have had one client ask that I do my inspection of the basement and then bring the clients in. That was the sellers asked me to do that. So after I'd finish each floor, I'd bring the clients back in and tell them my findings and go through it so they'll understand it. And yeah, everything seems to be working out pretty well and usually pretty safe.
Great. So let's go over to the moving and storage experts here. And I think, Bill, you touched on a little bit of this about how you're handling, could you elaborate how you're handling estimates, first of all?
Sure. So pretty much the calls continue to come into the office. The office is still working. We have 2 people in the office fielding them. So the methods that we've always had a Move app that you could download from the App Store. We've had that for years. Primarily, it was a big help for me not going into Boston as often as I was for these apartments that would take you 3 hours to a round trip. It's a great source. However, the one that I've actually fell into that I really like is utilizing pictures from you, Mary, when you go out and you have a house online. I can access those pictures on Realtor.com, Zillow, your own website, and then call the client. And we're literally doing a walkthrough as if we're next to each other in the room. So I'm basically telling them what I'm seeing in that room at this moment. They're verifying if it's still in the room, whether they're on the same site or they're just in that room. And you're starting to build a relationship with them. You're getting a better feel and understanding for what they need or want you to do. So that keeps, obviously the social distancing, and it's been a very successful way of doing it. The estimates have come in tried and true, and the feedback is based on that. A lot of the feedback from clients is that they're amazed that we're still able to do the estimates and be accurate by utilizing the pictures.
Great, thank you. Nathan, are you how are you seeing the same thing? How are you doing estimates?
So a lot of pretty much our entire transaction process can be handled without any interactions with a client. They handle all the moving. So a little bit different than how Bill handles theirs is they have their employees are going in and moving the content for the client. For us, we are delivering the unit. The client gives us very specific instructions on where it's going to be delivered. And then from there, they do everything electronically over the phone. And even if they wanted to have a person-to-person interaction, we do keep that social distancing. we still follow those guidelines. Our drivers are wearing masks. They are, making sure everything is being kept safe and everyone's remaining at that 6-foot mark. So we haven't seen any setbacks with our, you can call it quote unquote estimating. We do a lot of working through it with the client over the phone, similar to just learning what they have inside, asking those probing questions of what size unit do you need? What content are you bringing with you? We try to be the experts at that part. So they do, excuse me, they put a lot of trust in us to make sure that, excuse me, they're getting the right unit, right size, and 9 out of 10 times, we're always hitting it right on the head. So things haven't changed too much in the estimating side of things.
Thank you, Nathan. And there's a question here directed at you, Chris, Green Home Solutions. It asks how long until people can re-enter their homes after it's been sanitized. But maybe you could talk a little bit about the sanitizing first and then answer that, or answer that as part of it.
Yeah. So it depends on what we're doing. Sometimes we'll go in and we'll do a light spray. If it's an area that we know has been contaminated, like we've done a couple of fire trucks and rescues after they've had people who's tested positive and workers who's test positive, we'll do a much deeper clean. And then usually I'll recommend at very least 8 hours, sometimes as much as 24 hours. And that's because what we're spraying is an airborne, it's an airborne hospital grade cleaner. And what that does is when that floats around in the air, we're looking for it to settle down, first attacking everything in the air and then attacking anything on any surfaces it settles down to. Before we go and do that the one we spray in the air, we do a surface cleaner. And the whole process we've gotten pretty quick. To answer that question in short, as short as 4 hours, as much as 24 hours.
There's a question from, well, there's a couple of questions. I think you've all already answered this about whether your workers are wearing masks. And I think every single one of you said that, yes, they are. For moving and storage, we have a question about, and I'll go to both of you. Are you seeing people, this sounds horrible to me, but are you seeing people moving themselves because they're afraid of hiring somebody and, exposing themselves to workers, so they're actually choosing to move themselves? Bill?
We see that all the time, especially after we give them the cost of their move, and then they make a decision that, yeah, I think I'll go for family and friends. Specifically, I have not had any feedback. I shouldn't say that. I've had a couple people call me and basically email me back and say that they're going to rethink their position. So that typically tells me they're either shopping for price or they are in fact going to have family move them. But I've never had anybody really come out and say that to me, because again, as you pointed out, the guys are showing up with mask and gloves, and the trucks are sanitized every night afterwards. So that's the best I can do to allay their fears of anything. And again, we've monitored our employees from day one of this stay-home order, where we have indicated that if you don't feel well, stay home. You're going to get paid anyway. We don't want you jeopardizing anybody within the warehouse because they're 6 feet apart, but still it's airborne. But no, nothing directly has come my way with that.
Nathan, could you speak to that as well?
Sure. So that's pretty much, again, opposite of how Bill and the full service movers will do their, run their operations. That's kind of that's where we want to be, is we see a lot of people looking to do more of the do it yourself, hire the family and friends to maybe, they'll rent a unit from us and then they'll fill it. We do make sure though, every time we drop a box off, all of our latches all of our handles, all of those high risk areas are properly sanitized. There's nothing within the box that can really retain the virus at all, other than those high touch areas. Like I said, the latches, if they're renting equipment, we're making sure it's brand new or it's been properly sanitized. So we do our best to make sure that if they do want to continue to use our product or use it as we're going to fill it ourselves, that they're getting the best, the cleanest, and the safest product that they can get out there.
Thank you. We have a question for Chris on what your time frame is right now for mold remediation.
Right now, I mean, we always do our best to work with you guys. You guys know mold should never ruin a deal. So if it's something that you need to get done, I can always have the guys work on the weekend. But right now, as is scheduled, if I was to come out and look at it today, I think I'm booking into, I can actually check right now. Monday. Monday would be the next open spot I have right now.
That's not too bad, a week.
Yeah, we just got our full team back, so that's huge. And it's dealing with this is challenging because we have one building we work out of, and then all of our employees are working with each other. So we're rotating them to make sure none of our employees are near any other employees to the best of their abilities. So yeah.
So we have a question for the home inspectors, and it's basically the question is, are people doing any kind of additional inspections during this time? They don't specify what kind, but are you seeing any differences, additional or less inspection than they normally would do? Mike?
No, I really, the answer is no. I don't think there's really been an increase and decrease in additional inspections. You know, standard radon if they're in someplace with well, maybe lead paint, that type of thing. But I haven't seen anything as far as interior environments, conditions, that type of thing. I think that what we've found is that home inspection, it really, the volume really slowed, and there's been a good steady trickle, and it's been getting better. But really, it didn't change a lot. As long as it was a single family or a vacant, that type of thing, it's when we get like a multi-family with tenants in it, that type of thing, that was the only complication. It just felt like the same business, but in a very strange world.
John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I usually use electronic radon monitors, and I've stopped doing that for the time being. I've just been doing the charcoal kit monitors. That seems to, I don't want to put any more stress on the sellers, that to come back and pick up my electronic monitor, they may not like that. So with the charcoal, we can allow the, one of the listing agent to come back and ship it out if that works. Just for now, maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll start the electronic radon back.
Okay. And going back to the movers, what kind of volume are you seeing right now, Bill, versus what you would normally expect for this, end of May period?
It's down. It's not as we're still very busy, which is a godsend, but it's definitely down. And I think a lot of that is because people are still struggling with, can they call us? How we working? And it's getting that point out, hopefully through things like this, Mary and the Realtor organization, that we are open for business and we can help them. But we're holding our own, which is fantastic.
Nathan, what's your business doing right now?
Very similar. I think, we typically will follow the real estate market. So real estate, I'm sure, has taken a slight hit with this stuff going on. It's also hard. People aren't sure if they're going to be able to spend the money, whether it's on full service movers or a portable storage unit. They're also not moving because of, they're not pre-approved for a home. So people are just really hunkering down now. It's steady, not a huge surge like we expected for the spring and summer market. I anticipate, fingers crossed, that, once everyone starts to get back to work, things starting to open back up, we'll still see that spring and summer surge, but it might not be until, July. But slowly but surely, I think we'll be able to ramp back up into things.
Sounds good. And for anyone on the call, if you have any additional questions that you're thinking of just now, you can type them in the chat. And also, just to Bill's point, everybody on here is open for business. So any of our realtors out there that need service, you're ready, right? So Chris, how often are you getting asked for sanitizing? I mean, is that, do you have a huge volume of calls for people asking for sanitizing, or what are you seeing?
When it peaked in Massachusetts, like 4 weeks ago, between 3 weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago to 4 weeks ago, in that 2-week period, we got more calls then and leading up to them, and now they're starting to drop off a little bit. What I'm doing is when we go in for a mold remediation, we're sanitizing whatever room we're setting up our equipment in, and we're kind of moving it. So that's just included within all the jobs now for that. And usually if we're in a home anyway, and they say, we're worried about this area, or we had people, come through this, and it's a large concern of us, we can add that in there. But for the most part, it's starting to slow down, and things are starting to get back to normal a little bit as we see these numbers of, new cases decrease in these nice warm weather. Everything's starting to moving, and we're seeing that with the stimulus package happening, that kind of bumped up back into mold remediation. A lot of people kind of saw that as, I'm home, let's get some stuff done around the house. We start getting more calls around then.
So this is an interesting question, and I think maybe it would be good to hear from each one of you. So the question is, what changes have you seen in your business model, in your typical business model, that you actually, as a result of the COVID-19, but that you actually think are a good idea and will probably continue and adopt that into your business, if any. So how about Bill? Do you have an answer for that?
I do. One of the things that we found really helpful is the fact that I can do many more estimates at home than I can on the road. And as things become, busy, and hopefully they pick up, as Nathan indicated, we're also anticipating late summer. It may be that I just spend a day at home or two where I can accomplish, multiple estimates within that time frame, as opposed to driving around house to house. So that's one of the things that I think we're going to incorporate going forward. And as I said, we've got the data to back up that we're not losing any of that accuracy in, being on a call with somebody, looking at their pictures and speaking to what's in that room, as opposed to, and again, I love my app. It's great. And when people utilize it properly, i.e., video the room and speak while they're videoing, it works perfectly, because if I have a question, I can call them. But nothing beats that, just-in-time information when we're speaking and I'm looking at videos. So I think that's what we're going to start to kind of gravitate to a little bit more, especially when the summer months, you can only do so much in a day when you're driving house to house versus sitting, at your table. You can do so much more.
Nathan, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, so I think, we have a good process of talking through the transaction over the phone. But one thing, we do miss is obviously that customer service aspect of it, meeting them, shaking their hands. Obviously that's not something we're going to be doing anytime soon, but I think just being able to continue to just talk through the client, talk them through the process. Us again asking those probing questions, what you're taking, it's going to continue to make our transactions and our deliveries more accurate. Really, like I said at the beginning, we don't require clients to be on site upon delivery. We just ask them for as much detail as possible. And I think as we continue to ask for those details, we're going to be able to do a lot more accurate deliveries, a lot more accurate drops. That way we're not inconveniencing our clients anymore. Not that we were, but it just allows us to really do things behind the scenes. They go out for the day. They're not waiting for us to show up to their house. A lot of clients might just want to be a part of it, which is completely fine. But if we can do things that are less inconveniencing, that's what we're going to continue to practice and do.
Okay. And Mike, so this part, for most of us, I think as realtors, are not around when Gallo, Moving, and Bill or My Box, we're not involved, but typically we are with the home inspections. So I'm wondering, Mike, what do you have to say about that? Any ways your business is going to change that you think are for the better and will stick around?
I honestly, I don't think so. And the reason is with home inspections, so much of it's about face time and the time that people are there. And time is always an issue with all of us. So what happens is, I think during this period, I think everyone's seen the time spent on site is a little reduced. It's more streamlined. There's a little less, everything goes a little bit more quickly. That's not always beneficial to the home inspector. Generally, the more time you spend in the house, it's a bell curve, obviously. But the more time you spend, the more you get to see, the more comfortable you are with your product. So I don't see a lot of changes in the way things have been done. I would love to implement the permanent 2 only people, so you don't get the know-it-all uncle and, the father of the only daughter who built the house for her.
Right.
But I think I'd probably get things back to where they were. And really, I don't think in our case that the, streamlining and smoothing out the corners to keep things moving isn't always as beneficial for us. It's a constant battle, and John will state this, that battle between, not spending a working day in one location, hours, versus spending enough time there that we get to know the house, they get to know the house, and that everyone's happy with the results. Thanks.
John, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, what I've done is limited my inspections to 1 a day. I will do 2, but it gets complicated. You get really worn out wearing a mask. We're hustling around, crawling in crawl spaces or attics, and it takes a lot out of you when you're wearing it, as everyone else can feel it. So I've limited my inspections to 1 a day. I'd like to keep it that way. But during really busy times, it helps to do 2 for, all my clients.
Sounds good. And Chris, anything on your end?
So the only thing that's really changed with our inspections between before this and going through this has been we've done a pretty intensive screening question. And it's, in our society, it's a little uncomfortable to ask somebody, hey, is it okay if I ask you some questions regarding your health or stuff like that? And that's the main way we're staying on top of that. We're making sure we're just talking openly and honestly about our contact with other people and what we've been doing and what our protocols are and what we're comfortable with. I'm sure you've all encountered people where you go into their house and they say, oh, you don't need to wear that mask. That's fine. We don't do that here. And, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me know, but I'm going to wear the mask and I'd like to ask you some questions about your health and stuff like that. Other things that have kept us ahead of the curve are things we already did, which is we, working with mold, we already have all the protocol stuff. We have the masks, we have, the big respirators, we have the full suits, the gloves. So when I go to somebody's house and I say, hey, is it okay if I ask you some questions about your health? In the last 2 weeks, have you had a fever? And they go, well, I did have a fever a week ago. I'd say, well, before I come in, is it okay if I wear some, protective equipment? And then I'll go to my truck and I'll throw on a big yellow suit and a big mask and I'll tape gloves up and I'll say, is it, I'm going to look like this. Is that okay if we still continue? So it's just about being open and honest. And I think once this starts to wear down, we'll still keep the questions up, but they just won't be as needed.
Someone had a question. This is also for you, Chris, because they may drive in a car with clients. Do you sanitize vehicles?
Yeah, we can do anything.
Okay.
It's just, we're not dealing with magic. We're dealing with a virus, which are difficult to get rid of, but it's very possible. And the viruses that we're dealing with, they don't last forever. They do get airborne pretty easily, but then over a period of time, they will drop down. So it's, to keep on top of your surfaces. A lot of, anybody, if you guys, if you're around somebody that you're a little nervous with, go after anybody leaves the car or something like that, wipe down all the surfaces, leave it open for a little bit. Sun does a really good job at killing things. We have a healthy outside environment, and a lot of that's because of the sun and that airflow out there. That's always good. A lot of times you guys aren't going to need a full professional cleaning service. It's, this virus can't survive for weeks outside. It just survives, depending on your humidity levels, maybe up to 3-4 days. So if you have a house or a car and, you have somebody in it who you're worried about, wait a little bit, all those things will drop down. Wipe it down with a Lysol wipe. If you want me to come in and you feel like you need to be turning that around because multiple people are going to be exposed to that, I can come by really easy. And for any of you guys, that would be like nothing. I would just pop by and do that for pretty much next to nothing.
And so also something that you brought up, we have a question, and it is about, do you have a health questionnaire? Each of you, are you asking questions of potential clients before you go to the house or before you send your people? And I think I'll ask all of you this. Are you using that, or are you just putting out your own set of protocols and saying, these are my rules? So I'll go to Nathan. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I mean, again, we just have been able to keep business as usual. Nothing that really, comes off the top of my head. Everyone's very understanding, and we haven't run into that issue thus far.
Okay. I think, I just got an email from my hair salon with a whole page of, so if you want to come and have services, this is what, you have to sit in your car and wait for them to call you in. You can't go in the waiting room. They're not going to be serving you coffee and drinks like they usually would. I think they're doing temperature check. I mean, it was a whole page. Now, they obviously have been shut down and just reopening, so it's kind of like feeling their way. But I was interested in that because it's already answering all of your questions. And it's not asking if you've had a fever, but they're going to check your temperature when you walk in. So, Bill, do you have any kind of questionnaire or protocol that you give out to your clients?
We have initiated that. We were in the beginning. I was basically having those conversations with a lot of people calling, and I would in turn say that, because they'd ask about our crew, that our crew is equally as concerned as they are about coming into a home. And I'll share with you how, sometimes customers, like Chris, you had said, they told you they had a fever. It's like, they're not really thinking about us. They're thinking about their own situation and what their needs are. And I had a realtor referral in Weymouth, and it was an older woman who I had to go out and see. So I said, that's fine, I'll do it. And I put the mask and gloves on. She came to the door with the mask hanging from her chin, not over her mouth. And the first thing she said to me when she closed the door behind me was that she had great news. She just got her results back from her test, and she tested negative. And I'm like, you couldn't have told us that? So So that's when we started to ask the questions now when people call the office, you know, is everybody well in your home? Has anybody had a fever, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing our due diligence on that end now as well. I think initially we felt as if, you know, maybe we were stepping over the line a little bit. And I said to the office, we're not. Everybody, it's a new world. We're all trying to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing by these guidelines. So it's not just us, it's the people we're interacting with as well.
Mike, do you have a questionnaire or protocol you send out?
No,
Or?
Tiger does not, but when the inspection, when they call in to book the inspection, to set up the time, that type of thing, is a good bit of conversation then. We do find that we've actually had a number of different times when they wanted the inspector to get to the inspection. And again, this is all about communication. We get to the inspection, and at that point, the inspector, they want them to sign the release, you know, and a lot of them in the beginning, they were all pretty much the same, you know, have you been out of the country? Do you have a fever? That type of thing. But over the last month or so, they've added additional pages. It's got longer and longer. And some of the inspectors aren't comfortable. I mean, it gets feeling, you know, there's a little bit of legalese mixed in there. And they're like, I'm not an attorney, I'm a home inspector. So for them, you know, it kind of came at us. And in almost always, they kind of boil down to the same thing. So the answer is, we try to take care of it at the time it's booked, but we did find we'd have an increase more often, and also more pages that started to come at us, you know? So, but in my comment about this is all about communications and expectations. If they had just sent it over at the time the inspection was booked, it would have made things a lot easier because we'd have time to chew on it and send it out. When you get it, you know, you're about to step in with your mask and your gloves on, and they hand it to you. It's kind of like, now let me sit down and look through this and, you know, send a copy to my attorney. Thank you.
John, do you have any kind of protocol or questionnaire you're using?
Right now, when I get to a inspection, I ask if everybody's feeling well. And hopefully if the listing agent is there, I ask if the sellers are all feeling well, if there's any illness. Also, I've put in my pre-inspection agreement a little statement about everybody's trying to follow the CDC guidelines and stay 6 feet apart. Lately, I was in Olden's Pharmacy the other day, and I saw they had the electronic thermometer. I was for personal use. I was thinking of possibly taking, you know, temperatures there while I'm there. I'm not sure how that would work though. Whether, you know, people would really get scared and would make, you know, the buyers really uncomfortable, or it might make everybody feel safe. I'm working on that part.
Okay. And Chris, I know you touched on this already, but I think the question is, do you have a protocol or questionnaire before you hook up with a client?
Yeah. So one of the things about going to people's houses or, you know, for you guys showing houses or bring your clients to the houses to be looked at, the thing you're worried about is who's been in this house. And it's so easy, like what Mike touched about, is that it's so easy to have a long list. And I kind of took a step back and realized, you know, where's the line? We've all heard so much stuff in the media and stuff online about how, you know, this can be spread even if you've never had any symptoms and this and that. And it's really, you know, I kind of took a deep dive into, you know, where are people contagious? When are they not contagious? And I set up just a pretty easy 5 questions that I ask before I go into any homes or before I introduce myself into any environments. And it starts with, you know, just out of the people who live in the house is what I focus on. I'm not going to, you know, dive and ask them, you know, how many people have been over your house or anything like that. Just out of the people who live in this house in the last 2 weeks, have they had a fever? Have they had shortness of breath? Or, I'm going to get, hold on. I know these, but I'm under pressure. Shortness of breath, a fever, and a cough. And in the last 2 weeks, has anybody had a fever, shortness of breath, or a cough? And you start with that. Those are the very common symptoms for viruses. And if you're contagious, 2 days prior to those symptoms and 3 days after any of those symptoms are your most contagious times. So if they haven't had those, or if they had those in the last 2 weeks, that just starts a nice, easy discussion. And then when I put these protocols in place, I would ask, have you traveled in the last 6 weeks? which now I still have it, but that's kind of out for everybody. Nobody's traveled in the last 6 weeks. And the last question is, have you been exposed to anybody who you know have tested positive for COVID-19? And, you know, those 5 questions just can kind of rate yourself, you know, where you stand on this infectious disease and where you're going to be and what level of protocol you need to take. Because most of us are okay and most of us have not been exposed. But some of us have, and it's just about tracking that and just taking proper precautions. You know, it's not something that should be ruining business or slowing us down. We just need to change a little bit. And it's finding that line so you're not filling out, you know, multiple pages of questionnaires and stuff like that.
So those questions determine whether you put on that big giant yellow suit or you go in mask and gloves only.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually use sanitizer too. I don't use gloves. Hospitals needs gloves. You're taking away from those resources, and sanitizer are a good way to get it done.
Yeah.
But when I leave my truck in a pump and I get back in, yeah. That way
I'm wondering what kind of business is going to pop up from this. You know, so I mean, I'm joking about you with your big yellow suit, but you know, different kinds of clothing, because now I'm starting to see different styles of masks and you know, with you know, a little more you know, colorful, or you know, to you know, change your outfit or match your, you know, your gear for the day or whatever. It's pretty interesting.
Could I
Mike?
just a quick question for Chris? Chris, I was curious, have you had were there any, whether you call it a positive, negative response or just a negative response, did you get a number of did anyone say to you, oh yeah, by the way, my uncle had it, he was over last week? Did you get many of those?
No.
Yeah,
No, it was good. I, you know, everybody I've talked to about this has just been keeping people comfortable. That's been the main thing. I had one of my technicians I had a scare with, and I had to stop everybody working and get everybody tested. But besides that, you know, everybody's really good with just talking about it and just being understanding.
Great.
We're all trying to keep our loved ones safe.
I know. So we're going to wrap things up, but I want to give you each an opportunity to, you know, to have a closing remark. Someone did ask on the Q&A for your contact information, and so I'm just letting them know that typically after we have these webinars, I'll post on Facebook a thank you and put all of your contact information on there again, so that you know, anyone who wants to reach out to you with more questions or hire you can easily find your information. So I'll be doing that. And you know, Chris typed his cell in the box, and you can all feel free to do that now. But I will post it on Facebook, and for any of our attendees, Facebook is a great place for us where we post upcoming events and also contact information and stuff. So okay, Mike, just some closing remarks.
I've really kind of spoke as I went along.
Yeah.
I just feel that, you know, the whole point of this get together was, you know, doing business during the COVID. And I feel that with home inspection, the process hasn't really changed. Some of the time frame and some of the care. I did just want to touch on that. It's really our clients who set the tone. A couple of times I've gone to inspections, and there was an older couple who seemed like they were right in the wheelhouse, like they should be worried about what's going on. And they're like, nah, no masks for us. We're all set. And I was just like, so I'm like, well, I'm still going to wear one, and please don't crowd me around the electric panel. So I just think that it's the client that's going to set the tone. And by client, it can be from your end. It could be the seller. It can be but for us, it's generally the buyer. You know, I had the other day, a younger couple come up and they had the mask on. They said, you know, a mask's optional. It's up to you. And so that's what's going on out there. There is kind of some people have kind of stepped back from it. I personally try to work with the mask and the gloves as best I can, because I just think that, you know, we're the ones meeting a lot of different people. But it is interesting that, things are kind of evolving, and it's not always what you expect. That couple shocked me. You're like,
Right.
no masks, So, all right.
Great, and
I think
thank
that's
you.
it. Yeah. Very good.
Bill, do you have some closing remarks?
Well, it's, and similar, Mike is right. The customers, you're going to see all different types. I don't know when I'll start doing home estimates again, but I do know that I will continue to wear a mask in the plastic gloves that I have. To me, it's until we get a true thumbs up that there's a cure, there's a pill, there's something. I've got a grandbaby that I've just held for probably the third time because I finally convinced my daughter that, hey, if you're home and I'm home, there should be no reason that we can't do that. So I want to continue to do that. So for me, the systems that we have in place now are working. There's no need to change them. We will convert when the time is right to where I go out and see people. And I'm still, technically, if somebody like the situation I had indicated, they just needed to see something. That's fine. I don't mind that because again, I have masks and I have gloves and I do luckily have sanitizer, which I know is still very hard to get. So we'll adapt, and I think that's the main theme of having this Zoom networking group is we're all adapting. So it's just a continuation of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John?
Yes, thank you, Mary, for having us on here.
Oh,
This
you're
is
welcome.
really informative, I think, for all of us here. No, I'm really in Weymouth, Mass, in my office. And I found if you scroll over your video little camera there, has a little arrow next to it and has a screen, different choices of screens you can pick. I don't know if all Zoom people can do it, but we subscribe to it. And it's kind of nice to be here for a little while.
So you're choosing to be on the beach, we see.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Nathan?
So I guess just to close up, Mary, thanks again for having us here. I definitely appreciate and miss networking with everybody in person.
No. We miss
similar,
our wine and our fun. Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's in the middle of the day, so it's kind of, I can't warrant having a beverage while I'm sitting here. I mean, Bill might be able to hide it in his coffee cup. But similar to what Mike said, we set the expectation. So you've set those expectations with your client. The masks are to protect them from us. We're going to do our best to stay cleanly, stay clean, stay safe. Obviously, if they choose not to, that's okay. You can't force someone to do something. But as long as we in business continue to do what we are trained to do, what we're going to do to keep ourselves, our family safe, it's going to be a new normal, and we're going to all overcome it at some point. And we're just going to continue to go about doing business the way we can.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I think what everybody says is very accurate. From everything that I understand about this, I think we can expect to be around where we're at until there is a vaccine for it. And it is about adapting that new normal and getting comfortable and getting used to this kind of stuff. I think we're going to have a couple more phases of opening, and then we're going to settle into that new normal. And it's just about adjusting and, being comfortable and happy with that. And, I think we are going to get busy, and I'm looking forward to it. I miss our nights out. And I'm very much looking forward, and hopefully we can get back to that before 2 years is up or before a vaccine.
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, but it's about, figuring it out and just taking it day by day. If anybody's client is really nervous about this, or, anybody's, you really see hesitation, have them call me, talk to me about this stuff. I've done a lot of research about this and how it spreads and where it goes and how to track it. And it's just about getting comfortable.
Yeah, I think I really want to thank all of you for all the support that you've given Women's Council of Realtors, for years. And I will, get the information for your contact out there. But I think the common theme seems to be that you know, business can go on. You know, yes, you have to make some modifications, but I know that realtors, I'm always amazed, and I think for our affiliates, it's the same. I'm always amazed how resourceful everybody is, and coming up with new ideas, and just figuring out a way to do business when you've got these curveballs thrown at you. It's really amazing. But I think also the overriding theme that I heard from all of you was about communication, so that if there are any agents out there that are hesitating because they don't know the answer, or their client doesn't know the answer, that probably the best thing that they should do is pick up the phone and call one of you and find out, because you're going to have the answers, and you're going to be able to guide them on how to continue doing their business and get transactions closed and people moved, and everything that we normally do. It can still go on, just with a little twist. So again, that's all we have time for, and I do thank you. And I also look forward to when we can all be actually together again. That I do miss that. I really do miss that. I mean, Zoom is great, but you know, we'll get back to that eventually, and we'll all be really excited when that happens. So have a great day, and you know, we'll continue to do these webinars, so I'm sure we'll be seeing you again in a little square. Okay.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mary.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Take care,
Thank you,
everyone.
Mary.
Thank you.